Greetings, Nick with Sweetwater here, and today we're going to be taking a quick look at not one, not two, but all three of the TC Electronics high-gain Ampworx preamp pedals. Jim's 800, the Dual Rec, and the V550. All three are highly intuitive, no nonsense, no frills, digital amp modelers in pedal form. They each boost a built-in official Celestion cab sim, 2 channels, and a boost option too. And the proverbial icing on an already great cake is this: they're extremely affordable. Nice. And talking of the built-in official Celestion IR in each model, they're exactly what you've been hearing. No amp is being used or being harmed in this demo. The name of each Ampworx pedal makes the amp TC of painstakingly modeled pretty easy to guess. Let's see. Jim's 800 is, wait for it, a Marshall JCM 800 2203, while the Dual Rec preamp pedal is a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier. Imagine that. A 1995 Revision G to be exact. And finally, and perhaps not quite as obvious to some, the V550 is a recreation of PV's famous 5150 Mark I amp. The control knobs on each pedal also offer a subtle hint as to the amp being modeled and are a really nice touch. Jim's 800 boasts gold-top knurled knobs that are synonymous with Marshall amps. The V550 has chicken-head knobs just like a 5150, and the Dual Rex controls nicely mimic those instantly recognizable dimpled silver knobs on a Mesa dual rectifier. Before we take a look at each one of this intrepid trio individually, let's take a quick look at the features that they all share. Number 1, they all have 2 foot switches and 6 control knobs on top. The right foot switch selects the channels, green or red, just like this. The left foot switch activates the boost and the LED glows red when it's on, just like that. Number 2, the bottom 3 controls on each pedal are tone controls. And going from left to right they are, wait for it, bass, middle and treble. Actually, to be exact, in the case of the V550, these controls are labeled low, mid and high, just like on the PV5150 it models so well. Number 3, The top left-hand control is always gain, and the top right-hand one is always level. As for the one in the middle of the top row, well, that varies from pedal to pedal, so stay tuned to this video for more information. A bit messy, but what a good sound. Anyway, back to the common features. Number 4. Whenever you dial in a tone for a channel, the pedal automatically remembers it when you switch the other channel, including whether or not the boost is activated. Pretty cool. Number 5. On the left-hand side of each pedal, there's a mini jack for headphones, and the signal includes the cab emulation. Nice. Number 6. On the back of each pedal, we have the following going from left to right. Input jack for your guitar cable. Output jack to connect to either a guitar amp or power amp. This jack signal does not include the built-in cab sim, by the way. That said, if you wanted to, you could run it into an external IR loader, like the highly compact TC Electronics Impulse pedal, this bad boy right here. This comes preloaded with a bunch of cool official Celestion IRs and also has plenty of room for you to load up your own favorites too. And talking of IRs, the next output is the DI output with cab sim. This can either go to a recording interface for your DAW, a mixing board, or to a full-range, flat-range response system. And just so you know, that's the output I'll be using for pretty much all of this video, because it's really good. And incidentally, you can run both outputs at the same time, which would be great for live. You could run the DI to the front of house, and then use the regular output into your guitar amp. Next is a master mini presence control. This obviously works on both channels, so it's a set and forget scenario with this one. And to the right of that is a pre/post switch for the boost. When you set it to pre, you get an emulation of a tube screamer like overdrive hitting the front end of both channels, namely an overdrive with a nice mid-range hump. And when set to post, you add a clean boost to the output of both channels. Next is the power supply input. Now these pedals don't come supplied with a wall wart, but the usual suspect 9-volt pedal power supplies do the job, like the One Spot for example. Then at the very end is a mini USB port which is purely there for any future firmware updates, and that's it. And the cable does come with the pedal for that one. And last, but certainly not least, each pedal has a bypass mode option, which means the channel foot switch will toggle the pedal on and off. This of course means you can't change channels. The one that is active will be the last one you selected before you switch from dual channel mode to bypass mode. Mode selection is super simple and all is explained in the handy dandy manual that comes with each Ampworx pedal. And that completes our look at the common features. Now let's take a quick look at each one of the 3. I'm going to do this in chronological order of the amps being modelled. So first up is Jim's 800. As already mentioned, Jim's 800 is a model of the now legendary Marshall JCM 2203 100-watt tube head. To this end, the official Celestion cab sim that's loaded in the pedal is an IR of a 4x12 loaded with Celestion G1265 speakers. Can you say period correct for the 80s? And just so you know, the good folk at TC have incorporated a few popular JCM 800 modifications from the 80s to their Model 2, including a hair more gain and also a slight tone stack tweak. As you can see, the middle control of the top 3 knobs on Jim's 800 sets the amount of boost you get when the boost switch is activated, and you can set it to a different amount for each channel if you like, thanks to the pedal's aforementioned memory ability. The green channel is a clean one, based on the JCM 800's low input tone. Let's quickly check it out, shall we? Here it is with all the pedals controls set to 12 o'clock using a neck single coil sound. Let's quickly quickly tweak that and add some chorus and verb, shall we? As you can see, I've added the reverb pedal after the cab emulated DI output, which makes perfect sense as that's where real reverb lives. After the speaker, not before it. Ditto echo for that matter, not that I'm using some right now. Yeah, that's a pretty nice clean with a pleasing touch of dirty hair on it, which is something the always excellent Tim Pierce has talked about on his channel. Not pristine clean, but gained up clean if you like, and I do like it. Now, if I stay on the alleged clean channel, crank the gain control, switch to my bridge pickup and kick in some pre-boost, let's see what we get, shall we? Now let's back off the gainer hair on the clean channel, keep a little bit of pre-boost in and see what happens. Pretty neat, huh? And that's just the clean channel. Now let's check out the red channel, which is based on the high input sound of a modded Marshall 2203. Once again, we'll start with the boost off and all the controls set to 12 o'clock. That's not a bad starting point. Let's tweak the EQ and crank the gain a bit, shall we? Nice, let's kick in the pre-boost as well now, shall we, and see what we get. Jim's 800 also plays really well with overdrive pedals, just like the Paul Gilbert Mojo, for example. Let's check it out. That obviously wasn't Paul Gilbert, not even close actually, not even the P of the Paul word. But anyway, I think you get the point. It works well with pedals. This means if I want, I could set the Jim's boost to the post setting so I could dial in a sound I like using the pedal and then use the boost switch to go from loud to stupidly loud, just like this. Granted, that was slightly overkill on the boost level, but I think you get my drift. Anyway, I could carry on tweaking Jim's 800 and jamming for days, but I think you get the picture. So next up is the V550 pedal. This pedal is based on the PV5150 Mark I, and that was of course designed with the late great Edward Van Halen and came out in the early 90s. The official Celestion IR built into the V550 is a 4x12 cabinet loaded with a quartet Celestion G12M heritage speakers. As you can see, the middle control on the top row knobs is for resonance, which is an important part of the 5150 Mark I's unique tonal DNA. And just like on the amp, this control is extremely effective in adding a thick, low-end girth. The green channel is based on the highly lauded crunch channel of the 5150. Here it is with the boost off and all of the controls at 12 o'clock. Not a bad starting point at all. So let's do the obvious, do some tweaking and then kick in some pre-boost to front end the sucker as well. Let's quickly hear the resonance control I talked about earlier in action too, shall we? Here it is, pretty cranked. Yep, that definitely works. Can you say girth? And remember, when I change channels, all the settings, including the fact the boost is engaged, will be remembered by this fine pedal. That stated, let's do exactly that and switch to the V550's red channel, which emulates the 5150's high gain lead channel. Once again, we'll start with the controls all set at 12 o'clock and the boost off. Once again, what a great starting point. Let's do some tweaking, shall we? And that, my friend, was without any pre-boost whatsoever. Now, I'm sure you can immediately hear why the 5150 became the go-to amp for so many metal bands as soon as it was unleashed. That, of course, was a badly played intro riff to Davidian from Machine Head's stunning 5150-driven 1994 debut album, Burn My Eyes. So now let's kick in some pre-boost, shall we, and do some whittling. Anyway, enough of my waffling and whittling. Let's check out our third and final pedal, the Dual Rec. This pedal contains the digital simulation of a 1995 Revision G of a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier head. And if you're interested in the various versions of this much respected and much used head, my good pal Fluff has done an excellent video on the subject called A Brief History of the Mesa Boogie Rectifiers 1992 to 1999. So check it out on the YouTubes. The official Celestion impulse response loaded into the Dual Rec is of a 412 loaded with Celestion Vintage 30s. Perfect. And don't forget, in addition to being on the DI signal, this fine IR also hits the headphone output as well. The control that sits between gain and level on the top row of the Dual Rec pedal is labeled tight, and it does exactly what you'd expect it to do. It's a bass cut, so the higher you turn it up, the tighter your sound becomes. The green channel of the Dual Rec pedal is crunch. Let's hear it with boost off and all the controls at 12 o'clock, as per usual. Now let's crank the gain, shall we, and do some EQ tweaking as well. Now let's try the same setting but with some drop D action, and then we'll check out the tight control. That was with tight at 12 o'clock. Let's turn tight all the way off and see what happens. That definitely had more girth in the low end. Now let's see what happens when we turn tight up to about 3 o'clock. Granted, when you're playing by yourself in the bedroom, that setting might not be quite as satisfying because it lacks a big girth. That said, trust me, live and in the studio, that setting will cut like a knife. Remember, the low end is a property of the bass player and also the bass drum and the toms. We live in the mids, so this control comes to its own when you're playing with other people. Anyway, that said, let's switch to the red channel, shall we? This one is lead. Let's check it out with all the controls at 12 o'clock. Once again, what a great starting point that is with all the controls at 12 o'clock. Now let's tweak some gain and EQ settings and see what happens. Now let's kick in some pre-boost, shall we? Once again, I could sit here for hours just messing with this pedal, but I think once again you get the picture. And there you have it, my friend, a very quick look at the trio of pedals that make up TC Electronics' high-gain Ampworx series. Jim's 800, the V550, and the Dual Rec. And what great sounding, keep it simple stupid Kiss pedals they are. And, as mentioned at the start, in the digital amp modeling pedal domain, they're extremely affordably priced. The built-in official Celestion cab sim IR on both the DI and headphone outputs is a really nice touch too. I like it a lot. In closing, as already mentioned, everything you've heard me play through the three pedals has been recorded by using the DI signal with the built-in IR straight into the board, as is, if you will. That said, trust me, because I'm a doctor, the regular output with no cab sim on it works great into a guitar amp too. How do I know? Because I've played a gig with the V550, that's how. Straight into an amp, and it sounded great, even with my klutzy playing. For more information on these three simply splendid high-gain Ampworx pedals or any of TC Electronics' other fine products, please go to sweetwater.com, or better still, call your friendly sales engineer. Thank you so very much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, nicely please, and also subscribe. Click here for more videos like this and go to sweetwater.com for all your music instrument and pro audio needs. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Goodbye.